You've raised what I believe over 380 million for some pretty awesome investors. So could you maybe share just, I would say like more high level kind of what the fundraising journey has been like? And, maybe one fun question would be to ask is, maybe what was the hardest round to raise?
I would say fundraising is not fun whatsoever. You're going to get a lot of no's. And I would say in that process, though, you should look at the themes of the no's. So if you were to react to every investor, you just go out of business. Like you're going to hear a lot of contradictions, and that's fine. But every now and then, when you hear the no and you hear enough of them, you should go, maybe I should dig into that. Maybe I should adjust my pitch. And your pitch, I think, is everything. By the way, I support a few founders, and I'm always harping on the pitch. I'm like, why are we spending so much time on this? I'm like, you got to get this tight, and it's not just for raising money; it's also for attracting talent. Why would anyone come join your journey unless they're excited about what you're doing? So I spent a lot of time, especially in the early days, on the pitch and telling that story and where do you want to go with this business? Because that in the early days, it's just you or your co-founder and you're just telling a story. And so I think that part is really important. And, the hardest part is honestly the earliest days are the hardest part. Like we went those 2 years I mentioned, we maybe had 90 days of capital ever in the bank. So imagine death 90 days out for 2 years straight. You have to live through that every day. You have to go like, am I going to keep grinding? I have to go tell my wife, and now with a daughter there, hey, I'm going to keep doing this. And she's like, when are you going to really pay yourself? I'm like, here's what I'm going through. You want me to quit? Like, that's how it is when you're in the early stage. And like, that's just the reality of grinding it out. And most people can't do it. In fact, most people I say just don't do it because I don't think they have what's in them. So if you think you can stomach that and just grind it out, I one thing I've always learned looking back is things usually don't happen on my own timeline, but they do happen. Everything I've ever wanted to manifest in my life, I've done now. Everything, but never on my timeline. So, it's hard when you're starting and you're sitting there with your partner like, okay, in 1 year, we're going to be here. And then you're there 1 year, like, damn, it didn't work. Should we just close the business? No, because you can't control everything. You're on this journey. Like, there's a lot of things that are outside of your control. And so I think just be mindful of that. And then, I think we were fortunate because, we weren't the first mover, but we were the first one to really disrupt Craigslist and get some traction. And then we had like Andreessen who came into our B, and then that attracted some of the best investors that are out there. So we were fortunate to kind of, have, I think, some of the best investors on the planet to come on the journey with us. But again, looking back, it's like for sure, I'd say when just getting to the Series A was really tough because everyone thought you couldn't disrupt Craigslist, pretty much. Everyone thought I was nuts. And I said, look, I don't care if I convert a single Craigslist user. I think there's enough people out there that it's not worth their time, and I'm going to go after them. And so I think have conviction and just keep figuring out how to scratch and claw. And especially in the early days, try not to spend $1. And that's the thing now. I think it's a little different now than a decade ago. There's a lot more capital out there, but I used to have conversations with early employees and ask them, when they want to join, like, oh, here's much I want to make. And I would actually flip it on them and go, how much do you need to survive? And then I said, I'm going to pay you that. And then I'm going to give you all the rest in equity. And by the way, that story I just shared was from a guy who was our fourth employee, and he lives in Mexico now and he doesn't work anymore because he has all this equity and sold a bunch of it. So I think that's just the thing to be. I just obsessed over every freaking dollar for 2 years. And so when our Series A, by the way, when it was funded, we had $350 in our bank account. So had I paid myself a big salary, had we actually went to great team, fancy dinners, and had we had a nice office, we wouldn't even be talking. We just would have went out of business. So I think that's super important, especially in the early days. Just be as lean as you can because you can't control the timing.